those of you who were not here yesterday, my name is Lisa Henriksson, and I'm the project manager and co-founder of Wisdom Stockholm. It's a great pleasure for me today to introduce our next speaker. His work is available in 175 countries and has changed the lives of thousands of people all over the world, including mine. 7 years ago, I went to a workshop that changed my whole life. At that moment, at that workshop, I understood what consciousness was all about. I was introduced to simple tools that allowed me to access my awareness, my creative capacity, and true choice. Actually, one of the main reasons, the tools are actually one of the main reasons why I'm standing here today. And also, the tools inspired me to write a book, which is available in the Golden Room today. So, please welcome one of the most kind, caring, and generous people I have ever met. Welcome with me, Dr. Dain Heer.
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? How many of you are Swedish? Huh? Do you recognize your flag? Huh? How cool is that? You know, when you're standing at your closet in the morning and you're like, the white one or no? Stockholm, baby? It is truly an honor and a pleasure to be here with you, and in speaking with some of the other presenters and listening to what they've had to speak to you about. I'm just so extremely grateful. For the last 15 years, I've been part of something called Access Consciousness. And what Access Consciousness is, strangely enough, is a way of accessing your consciousness. Huh, kind of interesting, huh? We're not that bright, basically, is how it works. So we have to make things as simple as possible. And what happens, so at this point, we're in 175 countries around the world. And we have roughly 2,500 Access Consciousness facilitators that do this work around the world. And it's interesting because what we have embraced, what we started with was the idea that there had to be a different reality possible. And what would it take to create it? And the founder of Access started it 25 years ago, is a gentleman by the name of Gary Douglas. And he was looking, and he had done so many of the things, he'd had the businesses, and he had a wife, and he had kids, and he was like, if this is all there is, I don't need to be here anymore. There's got to be something different possible. How many of you know that you would like to see something different as our world? Yeah? Okay, so the really big why of why consciousness, underlying everything else, the really big why is it can undo all the ills of our world and create the world we always knew was possible. Now, I say that, and I start out with that, and you go, yeah, I know I'd like to change the world and everything, but, I got to pay bills. I'd like to change the world, but my business doesn't currently support that. I'd like to change the world, but I'm not spiritual enough. I'd like to change the world, but. This is where the buts start to give way to possibilities, okay? And what do I mean by that? Well, we have some really simple tools that I will be sharing with you. Now, here we go. This will be fun. Hi, that's me. Hi, nice to see you. Oh, wow. I've never seen my head that big. That's awesome. Oh my God, all those people when I was young who said you had a big head. Now I know what they were talking about. Huh, cool. So, why consciousness? Well, I'll be giving you as many things as I can, in the short time that we have together today. But here's what wow, okay. Now, I think that applies to more of us than we want to know, right? You're like, yes, I would like something different, but what if I don't like it? What am I going to do when I get there? Well, here we go. Oh, by the way, I'm not a PowerPoint sort of guy. This is the first PowerPoint presentation I have ever used, okay? So thank you. And with support like that, man, I think I can do it. Okay. So, and it's funny because I'm looking at it because I'm like, what am I going to talk about? That's great. Cool. So here's the whole title. I figured, now I was reading the little thing, where it gives the description of who's talking and everything, and there were some people who were so brilliant, they've distilled their presentation down into 2 words. I am not that person. If you read it, it says, Why Consciousness? How consciousness creates a different outcome in our businesses and our world and the crazy simple tools we can all use to create it. That's what I'm talking about. So somebody remind me if I get off track. Okay. Einstein. Isn't it interesting? You've probably heard a lot of other people talk about Einstein at least once during this conference, yeah? You know why? Do you know he's actually quoted far more as a philosopher and a ponderer of consciousness than he is as a, what was he? Physicist. Okay. Do any of you have that same thing? Like when I talk, and I usually stand up, and I talk for 4 days straight without a PowerPoint, okay? Never repeat myself, and don't have to think about it, because what I do is I speak to the energy in the room. But there's one little difficulty. Do any of you ever feel like you have ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism all rolled into one? Can you imagine trying to talk to a room full of people with that going on? Because every time you go to say the thing that you knew you're supposed to say, 8,000 of them would go, say me, say me. So everything that doesn't allow you to recognize that you are also ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autistic, and that it's a gift, will you let all of that go now, please? Thank you very much. Okay, so back from Einstein, we're moving on, except when I hit the button, it doesn't work. Oh, maybe they didn't trust me. Okay, so what is consciousness? Consciousness is where everything exists and nothing is judged. Now, just ponder that for a moment, okay? There are a lot of people who are speaking about consciousness now. In fact, there are some people who are saying it's the new mainstream. Now, what they're talking about is they're saying, hey, we've discussed and talked about spirituality for many, many, many years, and the conversation is now switching over to that of consciousness. Except in the conversations about it, nobody has a definition of it. So this is the definition that we recognize sort of most closely starts to embrace and encompass what the possibilities are. Imagine if everything could exist and nothing be judged. In other words, you see somebody and you don't go through that mental thing of, oh, they look like this, they feel like this, they're dressed like this. Instead, you just go, hi, and you can receive everything they are in that moment. If we could manage to consider the possibility for a moment of having everything come into our lives with no judgment, we could choose whatever we wanted, not based on right and wrong. See, what's happening currently in our business world is we are trying to judge what's right so we create it, and judge what's wrong so we don't create it. What that does is it puts us into a paradigm of right and wrong, rather than what are the possibilities beyond right and wrong. See, one of the crazy simple tools for creating consciousness is to start asking questions. What happens for most of us from the time we were little kids is we were taught that what you need to do is find what's right and create that, and don't do the wrong stuff. Do the right stuff, don't do the wrong stuff. Now, I know you don't have that here in Sweden, but over in the United States, there's a lot of that going on. And in some other countries like France, I mean, they have it, really, but I know it's not here in Sweden. Do you get what I'm talking about? You know the energy that I'm talking about, where you've been taught to judge what's right and what's wrong, right? And so if we're truly going to create a change on our planet, if we're truly going to create a change in our businesses, if we're truly going to create a change in our lives, one of the biggest, easiest things that you can do is get over your judgments of everything. Okay, I said it's the biggest and easiest. I lied. It's not actually the easiest. It is one of the biggest things you can do, though. So what happens? See, for anything you judge, nothing that doesn't match that judgment can come into your world. Whoa, wait a minute. What? I thought judgment was a way to create more. No, judgment puts you into, I can only have this, and that's it, and nothing else can come into your world. So, have you ever had on a personal note, have you ever had a friend that you were friends with, and when you were a little kid probably, or a teenager, or last week? Anyway, a friend that you were friends with, and they had a problem with somebody else, and they told you about it, and you're like, well, I'm going to stick up for my friend. I'm going to just show everybody, I'm going to not like this person. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, they got over it, and they were friends with this person, and you're left wondering why you're still judging them. Does that make sense? That was a really dumb example, but that's the one that was in my head right now. That's what happens with judgment, see. You can't see the other possibilities that exist when you're judging. See, every judgment creates a limitation in your awareness of something greater. Every judgment creates a limitation in your awareness of something greater. Your enthusiasm, your excitement, your joy trump judgment every single time. So, you see these little guys? Now, it's weird because you look at it and you're like, wow, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. That, I think, describes it more than anything else. So what am I suggesting that you do? Well, this whole judgment thing, like even notice I talk about it and it kind of goes, because that judgment is there. So let's do this. All the judgments you've had of you since you walked into this room today. Now think about it. How does that work? Well, you come into a room like this and you're like, okay, I'm going to receive some consciousness and some possibilities. I'm going to check out what people are doing. But then you're like, oh man, am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Wow, this guy went and was silent for a year. Damn. Damn. Seriously, I mean, how many of you went, holy cow? No way. This guy and this lady, sweet, beautiful people, silent for a year. This guy was being famous, and he went off and decided he was going to be spiritual because that's what he knew needed to be created in the world. Those should be inspirations. Instead, what we do a lot of times is we're a little inspired, and then we're a lot in judgment of us for not doing and being enough. Does that make sense? If that were to change, everything you've ever perceived that was an inspiration would enliven you, would create that enthusiasm and excitement, and would open up your world to more choices. I apologize, I get a little excited sometimes. Okay, so what happens is, if you see these guys up here, and then you look at Alfred too, and he's like, hey, you know what? And you know his story about, I want to bring more to the world. If we didn't have any judgment of us or them, we could have all that inspiration, and it could come into our lives and change our world. So everything that doesn't allow you to be that inspired, everything that doesn't allow you to recognize that anything anybody says here, if you just extract the judgment of it, you can have the possibility of it. Will you now let it go, please? Thank you. Okay, so by the way, in the workshop we're doing after this, we have a way of letting it go. It's just a little beyond the conversation right now. I know, there's so much to say though. How do you, 15 years of experience working with hundreds of thousands of people around the world. I got a lot to talk about, and I got 40 more minutes. Okay, sorry. So here's the thing. When you're creating your business, because I originally created this as a conversation about business and consciousness. And then I felt like I had a stick up my butt, so I decided that I would change something. Okay, no, everything that, why did you not laugh at that? That was funny. Thank you, now we're talking. Okay, so see the whole, when you get out of judgment, you could laugh at anything, but you don't, anyway. You don't have a judgment of you for doing it. So when you're creating your business from consciousness, it will actually function as benevolent capitalism. What is benevolent capitalism? I'm so glad you asked. Thank you for asking. Great question. The name of benevolent capitalism is for the good of all. It comes from the Latin words bene and vole, for the good of all. Now, this goes beyond social responsibility, okay? Which is a cool idea in itself, but this takes it to a whole other universe. See, benevolent capitalism is in our business decisions and our choices. What if we took the simple tools that are available to create those choices as greater for all of us? Now, it's very interesting to try to put benevolent and capitalism together. You know what I mean? It's like military intelligence. It's like, no judgment. Okay. So what happens is, if you're going to function from benevolent capitalism, in other words, using consciousness in your business, it's actually to create greater for all of us. So here's the thing that happens. See, when a business truly functions from consciousness, it creates more impact in the world and everyone working with and in it. It's the one thing that we can use to change the outcome of what we're headed towards as a planet. Consciousness is the one thing that we can use. Nobody owns it. Even though we created something called access consciousness, we don't believe we own it. We're not that delusional. It supersedes all cultures. It supersedes all religions. It supersedes all limitations. And it invites all possibilities. Imagine if every possibility that every religion and every spiritual practice invited could come together. Instead of some people going, oh, you know what? Well, you're wrong because you don't practice the way I do. What if we went, wow, there's some brilliance in what you're choosing. There's some brilliance in what I'm choosing. What if we got together and increased our brilliance together? Now, everywhere where you hear that and you're like, that's a great idea. And on the other hand, there's this other thing down here that goes, it will never happen. That's what we want to kill, okay? I mean, in a nice way, right? You know. Remember, no judgment. Okay, so that thing, the thing that drags you down and tells you it's not possible, is the thing that can change if you start using some of these really simple tools, okay? Now, let's do this. So all of that that tells you that, that we can't actually get together in this way and contribute to the possibilities we all have available in this way, that some things are right and some things are wrong, rather than us looking at, sorry, I realized I'm speaking really fast. I told you I was excited, I'm sorry. Okay, breathe. Okay, good. Instead of, if I don't speak fast, I can't think fast enough because my mind and my brain move at my mouth at the same speed. Wow, that was interesting. Okay, here's the deal. So if you didn't have a judgment of anything, what you'd be able to do is actually receive the greatness that's in everything around us. And you'd be able to see it, and you'd be able to receive it, and you'd be able to recognize it, and you'd go, I'll have some of that because that's what I need in my business. That's what I need in my life. Or even greater, that's an awareness of what I know can actually create a change in the world. Okay? So how do we create that? Number one, functioning from and as the question. Okay? First thing, functioning from the question. What does that mean? Well, when you're presented with something new, rather than letting your mind go crazy on its judgments of it, because what we've learned to do, see, our mind is kind of like this big, old box. Remember when they had card catalogs in libraries? Remember those days? Anybody? The 8-track tapes, CDs, yeah, right? And what happens is when your mind gets something new, what it does is it checks every card in that catalog for every experience you've ever had and its judgment of it. And if it doesn't see it in there, it goes, oh, rejected. It's probably bad and wrong. You've got to go, wait a minute, no. I'm not going to judge this as bad and wrong. I'm going to see if there's something there. So what happens then, a question always empowers, an answer disempowers. A question always opens up other doorways of possibility, which is really cool because how many of you are looking for different possibilities in your lives? I mean, obviously you're here, right? I mean, you've invested in yourself to be here. You must be looking for other possibilities. And so if you could start by asking some really simple questions, things can change. Okay, these things are not questions, those two at the top. What did we do wrong and what did they do wrong? Okay? What did I do wrong is not a question. That's a conclusion that you're wrong with a question mark attached to try to prove that you're looking for information. Now, how does that work? Well, the only information you're looking for is what was done incorrectly, something that you can judge. Now, there are certain businesses in the world that don't look at the right and the wrong. You know, if you heard Dr. Julia speak about the G&H, different point of view, different reality, like a reality-changing model, right? Well, do you suppose that that started from a question, maybe a question like, what else is possible here? What else is possible on our planet? And if it didn't have to look the way it is now, what else could we create? See, these are questions that start opening up other doorways of possibility. And what you start to recognize is every time you ask a question, you tend to get lighter. Actual questions. Okay, so instead of the wrongness, what occurred here that we haven't acknowledged so you can get to what it was? And what did we choose to get us in this place? You want to recognize that for everything your business is experiencing or you're experiencing, there's something you chose to get there. Now, the funny part is, it's a conglomeration of the choices that were made, okay? So what kind of questions can change everything in your business? Here's a really good one. Comes from a man by the name of Steve Bowman. He consults with CEOs and boards and nonprofits in Australia. He and his wife have written some amazing books on conscious leadership, benevolent capitalism, really cool stuff. And he says, you know, he's like, when I'm standing there and I'm working with the board, and there's one board member there that is just trying to derail everything for everybody, and they say, but this is the way it is. I just look at them and I say, yeah, but what if it weren't that way? And they go, what do you mean? Well, I know you think that's the way it is right now, but what if it weren't that way? And they get a weird look on their face. And then I ask it a third time, what if it weren't that way? And they go, well, then we could do this instead. Exactly. Interesting, right? What if it weren't that way? So take something right now. I don't know, business-wise or life-wise, because it's weird, they intersect a lot of times. Okay, take something right now that you've decided is a certain way and you don't like the way it is. It's not really working out well for you or anybody. It's not making you happier. And just look at it and go, what if it weren't that way? Like, I don't know, maybe there's a financial thing where you go, oh, we don't have enough money to do this. Well, what if it weren't that way? Just that question starts to open up a different possibility. Now, that's not, sometimes that's enough to create the possibility, but not necessarily. But what it does is it gives your awareness, the gift of you, the consciousness of you that is connected with the entire universe, it gives your awareness the ability to head in a different direction. Because instead of heading in this direction, and that's it, all of a sudden now there's another doorway of possibility opened up. It's kind of like this. A lot of us in our lives, in a lot of ways, what we've been doing is we've been heading in the same direction for so long that we have worn a rut in our path. Okay, and we've just been walking on that path, hoping to get somewhere, and then turning around and going this other direction and then back. And so there's like walls to the left and right, and we can't see over them, we can't see between them, we can't see through them. And yet when you ask a question, like what if it weren't that way? Or what else is possible? It's like these doors open in the walls that never seemed to be there before. And they have light and space and possibilities behind them. The way to always get to something that's greater is by asking a question. And then the other one is, what would that look like if it weren't that way? Another couple of questions that you really want to have for your business. Okay, if you recognize that your business, we'll talk about that in a moment. Another couple of questions. Sorry, that ADD thing is just high in my brain right now. If we choose this, what will the business be like in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years? How many times have you been there sitting with your team or your board or your sales team or something, and you're sitting there and you have a decision to make? And you have these three things, and nobody really knows how to give you the information to make that choice. And what happens is, when you ask the question, if we choose A, what will our business be like in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years? An energy comes up. Something in your awareness stirs. Option B, what will the business be like? Option C, and you ask that of all three options, one of those is going to have a greater sense of lightness and expansiveness. Now, here's the thing that a lot of us have learned in our businesses is we use linear projections and calculations to try to come up with what we already know from our awareness. Okay? If instead you function from your awareness, what would happen is you'd recognize that even the moment you go, oh, A, B, or C, all of a sudden, instantly, you have an awareness of what's going to create the most. How many of you would be willing to acknowledge that? Yeah? Have you noticed this in your lives? Have you ever noticed that as soon as you look at something, you've got an awareness of yes or no? Like when you saw the invitation for this event, did you go, yep, I'm going? And you didn't even know why, right? You're like, yep. Awareness, wisdom, yeah, wisdom, yeah, okay. Wisdom's awesome, I love wisdom, okay. But energetically, you knew. And this is the thing you want to get, guys, is we're energetic beings. We're energetic beings, and if we start to function from that and use that, every choice in our life and our business becomes different. Now, yes, are there people that stand in the way of it? Are there people that fight it? Yes, absolutely. We can deal with them too. But you got to get first that you're an energetic being. You have this awareness that goes beyond your mind. Okay? You have this knowing that goes beyond your mind. Now, when I say mind, and we talk about mindfulness, and there's a lot of talk about mindfulness and all that, and what I would say is don't get stuck on the word. You get the concept I'm talking about, right? So when I'm talking, and when somebody's talking about mindfulness, they might be saying the same thing I'm saying with consciousness, as an example, okay? Or presence, no judgment. That's kind of the mindfulness idea, right? So I've got different words, but if you recognize, I'm talking fast again, there you go. If you recognize that you have knowing that goes beyond your mind, because which is faster, knowing or thinking? Knowing, right? You're like, what? I have knowing? I wish somebody would have told me a long time ago, okay? So when you recognize that you have knowing that goes beyond your mind, what accesses it, what opens the door to it initially, what starts you to be able to get that you even have this thing called knowing is the question, okay? And when you ask something like, what will my life be like in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What will the business be like in the next 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years? And the really big question, if you're going to be a benevolent capitalist, creating your business for the good of all, what will the world be like in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years? Now, the weird part is you ask these questions, you'll get an awareness. So let's look at this for just a moment. We'll look at it later. Sorry. Oh, look, wisdom, Stockholm. You should go. Get a ticket. Mara. Hi, nice to see you. Now we know I don't use PowerPoint. Huh, that was awesome. I wonder if Mara knows any of my stuff. Nope. Well, I think we should be radically optimistic, don't you? Yeah. Awesome. This is cool. I have an idea. For the rest, I'm just going to talk about everybody else's stuff. Because they have some cool stuff up there. Now, check this out. Here, Benevolent Capitalism. It's not confidential or proprietary, entirely shareable. Other than the fact that they're in Amsterdam and they're probably high, I would totally agree with it. I'm sorry. That was a bad joke. I'm sorry. I'm just, at least they're not American and arrogant. Okay. So, wow. Should I probably not show you other people's presentations? And right now, what you're doing is you're thinking, who gave him that? Huh. Well, I did have about 35 more slides. Each one was better than the last. No? Well then, I'm going to have some water. Dear Mom, I went to Stockholm and I was invited to speak to all these really cool people, and now I know I don't use PowerPoint. Love, Dain. Okay. Okay, so it's like my secret notes that I was going to use went away. So then let's just have this conversation. Okay, so here's the thing. The idea of this is, if there truly were infinite possibilities available, and most of us don't believe in it yet, okay? I get that. Until you see some miracles happen. See, I've had the fortune of working with thousands of people in the last 15 years and seeing literal miracles happen on a daily basis. Like literally daily, okay? And daily, when I say daily, I'm not even kidding. I mean, I have people text me, say, thank you so much. I had a lady yesterday who was in intense back pain. And she's like, oh my God, what do? I want to go to the wisdom thing, and I'm hurting. And I gave her a tool, and she texted me 20 minutes later and went, thank you so much. It's mostly gone. I'm like, I know, isn't it cool? But that's the practical application of consciousness and conscious tools. So the thing about consciousness, oh, thanks. Would you hand me her? Actually, maybe. Thank you. Look, PowerPoint. You just don't get to see it. Which I think sort of defeats the point of PowerPoint, doesn't it? Okay, can you see? You got it? I will refer to the tiny little MacBook from now on. Okay, so what happens is the miracle of possibilities that is available starts to become available when you function from the question and when you start to let your fixed points of view go. And like... Not yet. Okay. So what happens... I can feel it. Does it feel good? Oh, we're close. Nope. Okay. So what happens is, see... Yay! Woo! Awesome! Now let's see if the rest of it is there. You know what? Let's just stay there. Okay, good. So... Tool number 2. Oh, what's true for you always makes you feel lighter, okay? You know, you have this amazing thing called knowing and awareness, and it goes beyond everything anybody's ever taught you and anything anybody can tell you. You know what's true for you always makes you feel lighter. A lie always makes you feel heavier. Now, how do you use this? Well, if you're looking at, let's say, getting a house somewhere, and it feels really heavy, Don't go there. That's your awareness talking. So would you like to look at this for just a moment? Can I give you an example? Okay, so think about one thing that you've done in your life that you knew not to do. One thing you did, one thing you went to choose. You're like, be quiet, I'm still married to it. Okay, I got it, all right, okay. That was probably bad. Okay, I'm American, I can get away with rude comments, right? Okay, good. Think about something in your life. Think about something in your life that you chose that you knew not to do that was heavy, and you chose to do it anyway. Because you thought, oh, but logically it doesn't make sense that it should be heavy. Logically it doesn't make sense that it should be wrong, and so you chose it anyway. Did it turn out exactly the way you knew it would? Yeah, right? That's because you know. Now what we do is we've been taught from the time we were little kids that we don't know. We've been taught to not acknowledge our knowing. We've been taught that we need to think and we need to prove, and we need to think and we need to prove, and we need to think and we need to prove. And what I would say is it's one of the unkindest things we're teaching our kids. It's fine to teach them to think too, but what you want to teach them is that they have awareness beyond their thinking mind. Because if we teach our kids that, what will happen is they will grow up to create a greater future than we've ever been able to. It's our thinking that gets in the way because it's inherently a process of right or wrong. Or when we use it as a process of right or wrong, that's when it gets in our way. So if you've chosen something in your life that you knew not to do, it's because you could perceive what was going to get created in the future. Now, if you're going to recognize, if you're looking to create a different future, isn't it nice to know that you're aware of at least something that you could choose in the future? In other words, most of us act like in order to go against our knowing, what we do is we come up with the reasons and justifications. No, I'll move here because it's a good price. I'll move here because I can, I'll be close to someone or something. I'll move here because it's away from people. So we go through all of our reasons and justifications, and yet there's that nagging knowing saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. If we instead would be willing to listen to our knowing, where it says don't do something, and go, okay, so what will my life be like in 5 years if I do this? And it gets really heavy, it's like, don't go there. Because you have knowing that goes beyond your mind. What's true always makes you feel lighter, a lie always makes you feel heavier. You'll find it's necessary to let things go simply for the reason that they are heavy. Okay? Now, if you could imagine right now, if you could choose in your life and in your business, all of the things that felt light, all of the things that led to more lightness. Let's just imagine we have a magical world where anything is possible. And quite frankly, I'm delusional enough to that's actually the world I would like to create. That's actually the world I would like to invite us all to create together. And it requires us together. Okay? But for me, I've got this weird point of view that anything is possible. Probably from having seen it so many times occur in things where people were told they couldn't change it, and they couldn't change their business, and they changed it. So I know this is possible. But imagine for a moment that for the next year, you chose nothing but that which was light for you. What will your life be like in 12 months? Kind of interesting, huh? Notice how you have that awareness when I say it. And some of you, it feels like the wheels are a little rusty on looking at this particular thing, and I get that, and this is why I'm bringing this up. So if it's of value to you, take this and look at it in your own world. Please don't buy my point of view about anything. I just want to give you these tools so you can use them and see if they contribute to you, see if they work for you. And as the wheels get less rusty, all of a sudden you'll look at something and it's like, oh, I've got that awareness. Wow, I didn't know I had awareness on this. So, but if you were to do that, 12 months of choosing nothing but what was lighter for you and your family, what would your life be like in 12 months? Now, if you did that for just 12 months, what would your life be like in 5 years? Now, here's the interesting thing. Asking you to look 5 years into the future is a really cool thing because your mind can't figure out that far away. It loses you. It's like, oh, I'm trying to, oh, I can't catch you. Okay? So you look 5 years into the future, you have to go with the energy of it because the other stuff doesn't work. So, but if you did, what would that be like? Now, imagine you do this in your business, whatever your business is, where you sit down and you're like, okay, for the major decisions at least. And then if you really want to create a wholesale change in your business, You actually let this information trickle down to everybody who's in your business and empower them to make choices where appropriate based on what's true makes you feel lighter, a lie makes you feel heavier. And even if they screw it up, they will become empowered and they will know a lot more next time. And you will actually start to create an empowered organization of individuals. Because here's the thing, guys. There is no such thing as a company. There is no such thing as a not-for-profit or an NGO. There is no such thing as a corporation. They're conglomerations of individuals, okay? So it's not that there's no such thing as those, but inherently they're conglomerations of individuals. They're individuals. Now, it's interesting because what we don't recognize is that an individual can make a change in the course of an entire organization. We've seen individuals change the course of the entire planet. You know, we look at them and we talk about their greatness. Well, what if you recognize that you could change the course of your family by having a different point of view and getting out of the judgment and looking for the possibilities and asking questions and heading for what was light? That you could actually change the course of your business by doing the same thing, by bringing in the idea of functioning from question to look at possibilities, bringing in the idea that you actually have awareness and showing people how to function from their awareness. Okay, work in progress. So any corporation, board, and company is a conglomeration of individuals, and what if you empowered them to follow their knowing? Would a greater result get created? Now, when I say that, what do you know? Would a greater result get created? Yeah, right? So everything that doesn't allow you to consider that possibility, everything that's in your world that is one of these things where you're like, I just can't, I can't. Well, all of those can'ts, every can't is a judgment, by the way. Every can't is a judgment. It doesn't have to be part of your world. Would you be willing to let all of those can'ts go right now, please? Thank you. Okay. Where did I talk about that? What? Oh, light and heavy? Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I didn't get why that was. I like gravity. Sure. Good. After several years, it starts to weigh on you, though. But it is a very heavy subject. Anyway, this is an awareness of an energetic lightness. Okay? So like if somebody says to... Yes, but it's the choice that the molecule makes to become a molecule that creates it as the molecule. So if you recognize that every molecule, we can go smaller, but every molecule in the universe has choice, basically. What this is about is how do we get to empowered choice of every friggin' molecule we interact with, and even those we don't directly interact with, but interact with out in the world. So yeah, I think we're saying the same thing, strangely enough. Yeah, they're already doing it, so we don't have to do anything. Well, yeah, but if you sit here and don't do anything, then the entropy of the universe, here's the difficulty, is if you sit here and don't do anything, the predominant reality that is currently here, that has been chosen over thousands and thousands of years, which has given us all the things on the planet that don't work, that continues to perpetuate itself into the future. If instead you go, you know what, I live on this planet too. This planet is my home. I'm not a visitor. I'm not a prisoner. This planet is my home too. And I would like to see a planet where we can all be interconnected, where we can all care for each other, where we can all empower each other, where we can all make those choices that make it greater for all of us. And if you make that choice, because it is a choice, energetically what happens is your space changes to start including everyone and everything. And really this thing, consciousness where everything exists and nothing is judged, is really the inclusion of everyone and everything, no matter what their point of view. And what you start to recognize is us remaining silent, acting like the best thing we can do is nothing, is what allows the insanities in our world that are so destructive to kindness and destructive to caring and destructive to abundance and destructive to joy and destructive to happiness. It's what allows that to continue. If we're going to truly change the face of this planet, we need to step up and have a voice. And when And by voice, I don't mean shouting from the rooftops. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying you have to even say a word. What happens is you be that energy in the world, and it creates a resonance of that. And what happens is somebody who desires it, that didn't know it was possible, all of a sudden now they're like, yes, it's kind of like lighting one candle to another. And they go, yes, I'd like to be that too. I didn't know it was possible. I've been living in this world where everyone is judging everything, and I just want to hug everybody, and I just want to make everything greater for everybody. And I didn't know it was possible, but there you are, and you show me that it's possible. And once you see it, once you be in the presence of it vibrationally, if it's something you would like to choose, all of a sudden it becomes infinitely easier for you to choose. And when more of us go, you know what, this is what I would like, and this is what I would like, and this is what I would like, and this is what I would like, it becomes a space that becomes available for all of us to choose. So, if you desire something different for our planet, ask for it. Be willing to be the voice for that. And once again, you don't have to say a word. I'm talking about your energetic being. And if you're willing to consider that and ask for that and say, you know what, yeah, I would like that. All you have to do, if you choose that, then what happens is if there's a conversation you can have with somebody that will change something, you'll know it. If you're sitting here going, oh, I can't be a voice for the world, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing because it's bigger than I am, that's the lie that sticks you. And that's where you can't be the contribution to somebody else that would change their world. From my point of view, the purpose of money is to change people's lives and their realities for the greater. It's the whole purpose for having it, okay? Whole purpose for having it. And, you know, can it get you some really great stuff and wonderful things? Yeah. And does stressing out about it stress a lot of people? Yeah. But what if you recognize that the purpose of money were to change people's realities for the greater? Would that let you be willing to allow yourself to have it? And then look for how can I create greater change in the world with this? So, and it's not about the money or anything else. It's about us going, you know what? I live here too. True leaders don't create followers, they create leaders. And that really is what this is about, is it's, you know, there are certain people that require followers. That's not what this is. This is where a leader knows where they must go and are willing to go there even if nobody gets it and nobody follows and nobody understands it. So my question to you is, all of you, what do you know that you've been pretending not to know or denying that you know, that if you allowed yourself to know it, would change everything in your world for the greater? Everything that doesn't allow you to access it, will you let that go now, please? Thank you. So, and once again, the way of letting it go we'll deal with in the workshop right after this, okay? So what makes you feel lighter is not only what's true for you, but is what will create the most for the business and the organization and the world. What makes you feel heavier is what will create the least always. Thank you. You probably tried at 15 and I wasn't looking, huh? Yeah. Thank you. I know everybody else like, dude, would you look at the sign, please? She's pulling energy like crazy. She's like, look at me, look at me. I'm like, what? Oh, well. The only time difficulties arise is when you go against your knowing on a personal level, on a business level, and on a world level. So once again, guys, we have this thing called knowing that supersedes our thinking. It supersedes our judgments. It supersedes needing to ever make anybody else wrong or ever needing to make us wrong. It is inherently who we are. We've gotten really far away from that in a lot of the way our entire reality works. And once again, we can choose to let this reality continue on stepping on our heads, or we can go, you know what? I'm going to step up and choose something different. Something kinder, something gentler, and something greater. So what it means is you have awareness that goes way beyond your cognitive mind. I think I've already tried to make that point, but if you read it and see it in orange, then maybe you'll believe me. So all groundbreaking ideas. Did you see how fast I did that? Huh? Huh? Did you read it? Huh? Did you see? Okay, sorry. Which is faster, knowing or thinking? That's the question. Okay. See, all groundbreaking ideas have come from our knowing and our consciousness, not our thinking. What happens is your knowing accesses the new idea, which comes from your awareness of and your connection to everything. It's so interesting to me now. They've been talking about it for years in science, about us being interconnected. They're starting to prove it. How friggin' cool is that? Not that any of you actually needed science to do it, but here we are. Okay. When your thinking mind goes into computing how to create it, which is what stops everything. Don't think what's the cheapest way to do it or what's the fastest way. What's the most amazing way to do it? If we do this, what will our lives and our businesses and the world be like in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years? And what you'll get is a sense of an awareness of energy of something. Conscious businesses function from an awareness of the necessity of creating a future and recognize that we are all interconnected. One of the prime differences between conscious businesses and others is that they don't just try to handle the problem they have in front of them now. They look at the future and look at the future they would like to create and look for how to create that future. What has stopped most people in their lives and in their businesses, because for me they're interrelated. We could have a strictly business conversation just by changing the words, or we could have a strictly life conversation just by changing the words, but they really are interrelated. And a lot of you are here for your business, and you're also here for your life, so I'm speaking to the best of my ability in both realms, because they're the same thing, or similar. They have similar concepts behind them. But what happens is, if you recognized that we're all interconnected, then what happens is the choice you make today may create something in the future tomorrow someplace else on the planet. The choice you make for your business today may create something else for the future tomorrow someplace else on the planet. So given that conscious businesses function from the creation of future, not the lie that they can't have an effect in the future. Does that make sense? Okay, because it's the choice you make today that will create your business in the next 12 months or next 18 months or next 5 years. Conscious businesses recognize this, but also people, when they start to function from consciousness in their lives, start to recognize, wow, I can make different choices today to create the future I would like to see. So let me ask you this question. We're going to do business, we'll do business first and then life, okay? So what choice could you make today that you haven't yet made that would create your business going where you would like it to go in the next 10 years? Interesting. Now, why do I say that? Because there's some energy that comes up. There's something, even if it's just this little whisper and you're like, I don't quite get it. Well, that's because you haven't practiced, that's all. This is just a matter of practice. All of this stuff is just a matter of practice. The more you ask weird questions like that have no conclusion to them, the more you get the ability to pick that up. It's just that you're rusty because you weren't taught this as a kid, and you were taught to not do this as a kid, so it's just a little bit of practice. Now, what choice can you make today that will create, that you're not yet making, that you really know you should, that you haven't yet? We know how we are, don't we? Okay. What choice could you make today that will create your life as the way you would like it to be in the next 5 years? Everything that doesn't allow you to make those choices, will you now let it go, please? Thank you. Okay, so the thing about this is, what if, well, let me ask this question also. If you could have your life be anything and feel any way and show up any way, get the sense of that. Like if we were in a magical world where our choice actually created and we could just ask and receive. You've heard of this, right? You've heard ask and you shall receive? Isn't it cool? I think they hid it in the Bible so nobody would believe it worked. Brilliant. Okay. But I found it actually works. That asking thing actually directs the molecules in the universe and the energy in the universe that pulls those molecules together to create what it is you're asking for. It's just most of us have forgotten to ask. There was a lady my business partner, Gary, was working with, and she wanted to increase her business, and she needed something like $200,000, and she'd been, trying to do this to create it, and this to create it, and this to create it. And she's like, Gary, I need a session. So in this session, he says, so have you asked for it? And she went, no. That's the first thing, okay? Ask. But if you recognize that we can change our future, we can change our stars, we can change our reality, What is it, if you lived in a magical world where you could ask and receive anything, what would you like your life to be like in the next 5 years? Just get a sense of the energy of that. Like, would you like to wake up happy? Would you like to wake up, thank you. Would you like to wake up feeling connected to people? Would you like to feel like you were having a sense of contribution to the world? Would you like to be able to walk through your world and feel like you were actually belonging rather than having these weird separations between people? Would you like to feel comfortable with your family? Okay, just some of the things that might be there. And there's a lot more you could choose, of course. I'm just throwing some out there. Because if you can get the sense of the way that would be energetically, then you'll know the energy to head toward in order to create it. Because we're energetic beings. Once again, blah, 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 blah. Unconscious business functions from the right now, maximizing profit. 4 elements to conscious creation: question, choice, possibility, and contribution. Every question you ask leads to more choices available. When you make another choice that's different than the choice you made, now you create more possibilities, which allows the universe to contribute to you, which brings up more questions because now you're at a different place having received this contribution, and it looks more like that. Huh? Hey? So every question leads to more choices, which leads to more contribution, which leads to more possibilities, which lead to more choices, which lead to more question, which lead to more contribution. Question, choice, possibility, and contribution are the 4 elements of conscious creation. Remember, you ask a question like, hey, what could I create in the next 5 years? What would I like my business to be like in the next 5 years? What contribution could our business be to the world? And if there were no limitations on time or money, what would we choose? Okay? What's going to create the most change in the world for the greater? And what's going to create the world as we would most like it to be? Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Okay, and when you do, when you function from question, choice, possibility, and contribution, you function from something that I call the creative edge. Okay, the creative edge is beyond the cutting edge. Okay, the creative edge is where you're actually creating new realities. Okay, it allows you to constantly be creating something new and something greater. You never stagnate. And one of the things that kills our lives and kills our businesses is when we try to stop because we've come to the conclusion that we have the right answer. Everything you've done to come to the conclusion that you have the right answer, will you let that go, please? Thank you very much. And I love this one. Get back to that goddamn cubicle and start thinking outside the box. Oh, yes. So what are the realities you desire to create with the choices you can make? And what are the new realities we desire to birth as an organization? Questions you can ask in your business. My question to you is, what would you like to create as our world? If you knew that you could contribute to the choice of where our planet heads as its future, what would you choose? The whole idea about consciousness is exactly that. Okay, we're not going to get to that because, actually, let me just say this really quick, since I have the plane and all that. Basically, are you aware that when a plane takes off from one city to go to another, 90% of its trajectory is off course? 90% of what it's doing to go from city to city is off course. It's course correcting continuously. Okay, well, you try flying 550 miles an hour and 100 mile an hour winds on, like around the earth, of course. But what happens is when you function from consciousness, it's the same thing in our business and our lives, but when you function from consciousness, the time you spend off course is drastically minimized. The time you spend off course is like this much, whereas it used to be this much. How many of you have felt that you spent, don't raise your hands, but get the sense of how much of your time you felt like you spent off the course of your personal trajectory of what you wanted for your life or what you wanted for your business? Start functioning from the questions that I've been talking about, and there are lots more, and I'm happy to send them to you if you want them. But basically, you start functioning from the question, and your time off, of course, is drastically minimized. A conscious business will function from the future that it creates, not just the now it can handle, and it is your choice. What would you like to see as our world in the next 25, 50, and 100 years? And what would you like to see as the future of our planet? What if you acknowledge that you and the choices you make in your business and your life is what will actually create it? Sorry, let me go back to that. I'm a very bad PowerPoint person, I'm telling you. Okay, what if you acknowledge that you and the choices you make in your business and your life is what will actually create that difference in the world. It's our choice, guys, girls, men, women, children. It's our choice. What do we choose? And what would you like to choose? And if you recognize that your choice were critical to the future of our planet, what would you choose? And what do you know that if you allowed yourself to know it and allowed yourself and your business to choose it, would take us beyond what currently seems impossible to choose? What do you know is my question. Yes, you. You know, we tend to get ourselves in these roles, in our jobs, in our, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm abused, I'm, poor, I'm Swedish, I'm American, I'm a poor Swedish abused American, whatever, like stack them on top of each other. We tend to get ourselves so stuck in those roles and the stories of our lives that we forget the possibilities that we are here to bring to the world. And I'm going to say one other thing about that. Everything that you've ever experienced is a tool for more possibility for you. If you've experienced meanness and gotten through it, if you've experienced abuse and gotten through it, if you've experienced people dying in your family and have a sense of peace with it, that is a gift and a contribution to all of us. It wasn't because you were wrong that you chose it. It was because there was a greatness that you are that you wanted to be able to speak about in the world and be a source for other people to choose. And there you go. So, I go back. What do you know that if you allowed yourself to know it and allowed yourself and your business to choose it, would take us beyond what currently seems impossible to choose? My invitation to you is to know that you know. Now, you'll get a little card in your goodie bag after you leave, if you choose. It's got some audios and some different things that are some tools. I wrote a book called Being You, Changing the World, and it was based on my working with thousands of people and seeing what were sort of the tools that would create really fast change. Because this thing of access consciousness is creating change really quickly, but that actually makes you more present in your life and gives you more tools. It's like we have a way of changing post-traumatic stress disorder in a few sessions. Literally, we've seen people get over this in 3 sessions, and it never comes back. So this is just one of the miracles that I see on a daily basis. If you perceive in any way that this work can contribute to you, or if I can contribute to you in what you are bringing to the world, please, Dain at accessconsciousness.com. Good luck spelling all of that. It's DAIN at accessconsciousness.com is my email address. You'll also get a thing in your goodie bag. But what I like to say is, the founder of Access told me when I first started working with him, he said, you know what, I'll know this thing is a success when everybody around the world has access to the tools and is using them and nobody knows my name. I have the same point of view. It's not about access consciousness. It's about us actually getting to be the gift that we are. The tools are actually available to change things faster than you ever thought possible. And what if you could just embrace some of these things and see how they work? And if they do, drop me a line. Let me know how it's going. And also, like I said, if you're creating something in the world that we can contribute to, please let me know, because this, from my point of view, is why we are here. We're here to contribute our greatness to each other and invite each other to know that that is actually possible and that it is available now. Thank you. Mwah.